Hello, it is Mrs. Tremblay again. You are going to use your time today to work on some Moby Max assignments, and I wanted to go ahead and give you a little refresher in the things that you're working on before you start working on them, because I feel like it will build your confidence and you'll get through them faster. So hopefully you are watching this. You can have your whiteboard out and you should be practicing these problems, trying some on your own as we go. If you don't have your whiteboard materials, using a piece of paper, like a scrap piece of paper, is fine. I'm not going to collect these whiteboard problems from you. I'm going to check out your Moby scores and see how you did with that. So the first set that you are assigned is round decimals to the nearest ones place. So it's going to be ones, then tenths, then hundredths. So I'm just going to do a quick little review with you of the types of questions you will see. I'm going to use a shortcut method. If you want to use the number line, you're welcome to do that for any of these. All right, first set, we're rounding to the nearest ones place, and you have to know that this is in the ones place, right? So go ahead and do that, round this to the nearest ones place. And I see the number next to the 1 is a 2. That means 1 is my answer. I should not put 1.0. I should just write 1 because ones place should only be a whole number. All right, try this one. Round 3.9 to the nearest ones place and press play when you're done. Okay, 3 is in the ones place. So I'm asking myself, is this closer to 3 or 4? Well, the number next to the place I want to round to is 5 or higher. So this would bump up to 4. It will be closer to 4. All right, third example, round this one to the nearest ones place. And welcome back. Number 2 is in the ones place, and I see that next to the 2 is a 5. Remember, if it lands exactly halfway, we finished that race. So 12.52, I'm going to go ahead and say that is closer to 13. So when I ask you for the ones place, that's the digit to the first digit to the left of the decimal point. And if the number next to it in the tenths place is 5 or higher, we bump that up 1. If it's 4 or less, we leave it alone. You also have some problems that are going to look like this. And you will be given a list of decimal values that you can click and drag underneath. So this says round each to 3 or 4. So on Moby, you'll see a 3, you'll see a 4, there'll be a box underneath, and down here, these will be in little boxes, and you can click them, and if it rounds to 3, you'll put it underneath the 3. And if it rounds to 4, you put it underneath the 4. So these are both whole numbers. That means you're gonna round to the nearest ones place for all of these. So I want you to ask yourself, where would 3.25 go? Is it closer to 3 or closer to 4? If you said 3, you're correct because the number next to the 3 is 4 or less. So 3.25 would go here. For 3.39, where would this one go? Ask yourself. Okay, the number next to the ones place is less than 5, so it's going to go on the 3 side. This would round to 3. All right, 3.97, where would that go in the 3 or the 4? The number next to the 3 is 5 or higher, so this would round up to 4. So I'm going to write 3.97. You would be clicking and dragging it. And then we have 3.83. Where would that go? I see the number next to the ones place is 5 or higher, so that would go over here. So when you see a problem like this in Moby, you'll know what to do. You're just clicking and dragging. You have to round each one to the nearest whole number and pop it in there. Okay, you're also going to have to round to the nearest tenth. So I have some examples for that as well. So let's try just some regular old problems, rounded to the nearest tenth. That's this place right here, the first place to the right of the decimal point. So I'm asking you, is this closer to 5.8 or is it closer to 5.9? If you said 5.9, you are right because the number next to the place I want to round to is 5 or more. So 5.9 is what you should have. All right, you try this one. Press play when you're ready. All right, 9 is in the tenths place and the number next to the 9 is less than 5. So I would write 17.9. That 9 stays the same. And the last one like this, rounded to the nearest tenth. 0 is in the tenths place. So I look at the number next to the 0. It's 5 or higher. That means 24 point. I'm going to increase this by a tenth, 1. Okay, now just like we had that other problem for rounding to the nearest 1, or the whole number, this time I'm going to round each of these 4 to the nearest tenth. So it's either 9.5 or 9.6, and you'll be clicking and dragging them where they go when you're doing this on Moby. So you have to solve each one individually. So first off, I know that I'm rounding these to the nearest tenth, so I'm looking at the tenths place. I can look at the number next to it to decide. So where would 9.519 or 9,519 thousandths go? If you said in the 9.5 section, you are right because the number next to it's 5 or less. Or sorry, less than 5, not 5 or less. All right, 9.551. This 5 is in the tens place, and the number next to it is going to determine where it goes. This one, if you said bumps up to 9.6, you are correct. If the digit next to the place I want to round to is 5 or higher, that means it's closer to the next one up. So 9.551, I would click and drag over there. All right, next one, let's figure out where this one goes. Go ahead. This 5 is in the tens place. The number next to it is 5 or higher. That means this would bump up to 9.6. So I'm going to write 9.572 underneath there. And when I look at this last one, this 5 is in the tens place. The number next to it is 5 or higher. So this one also would bump up to 9.6, 9.594. All right, now let's do our last one. We're going to review rounding to the nearest hundredth. So that's your third set for today. Here's 3.217. I want you to round this to the nearest hundredths place. Press play when you are ready. All right, this 1 is in the hundredths place, so I'm asking myself, is it closer to 3.21 or 3.22? When I look at the digit next to the place I want to round to, it's 5 or more. That means that this would round to 3 and 22 hundredths. You should have increased that by a hundredth. All right, try this one. Okay, this 8 is in the hundredths place, and I notice the number next to the 8 is 4 or less. So that means this is going to stay exactly the same, 93 and 8 hundredths. Don't put a 0 after that. Stop in the hundredths place when I ask you to round to the nearest hundredth. All right, next, go ahead and try that one. Okay, this 5 is in the hundredths place. Sorry, the 3 is in the hundredths place. The 5 determines whether or not this becomes a 4. And it should, because the number next to the place I want to round to is 5 or more. So I'm going to write 94 hundredths. In the last little set, just like the rest of them, you will have kind of a little something that looks like this. And it's asking you to round each one of those decimals to either 5 and 32 hundredths or 5 and 33 hundredths. So you would do each one. So when you look at this first one, I want you to look at that and determine which side it would go on. And with this one, the number next to the 2 is a 1, so it's going to stay 5.32. So I'm going to write 5.321 here. I would click it and drag it on Moby. All right, look at this next one. Where would it go? So this 2 is in the hundredths place. I see there's a 3 next to it. That means we're staying put right here. 5.323 would round to 5.32. All right, this one, decide where this would go. The 2 is in the hundredths place. The number next to it's 5 or higher. That means I would bump this up to 5.33. So I'm going to write 5.325 here. And again, on Moby, you would just click it and drag it. The last one, where would this one go? Okay, this 2 is in the hundredths place. The number next to it's 5 or more. So this would bump up to 3. So I'm going to write 5.328 here. So that is what you're going to see today while you're working through Moby Max. Get all 3 of those done today. Thanks for all your hard work. Have a good one.